show is brought to you by Johnston Group, Vittorio Rossi, Trans-Canada Brewing, Lou Ferlin, Cambrian Credit Union, and Homefield.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after a game in which the Winnipeg Jets, the team, the 2023 edition of them, and maybe the Winnipeg Jets as we have known them for an extremely long time, have been pushed to the brink. 4-2 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights as Vegas walks in, wins 2 straight games in the whiteout. That's 7 straight losses now for the Winnipeg Jets in the whiteout. And when I say in the whiteout, I get that there were white empty seats in the year of the Canadian division that the Winnipeg Jets won in front of in that series against the Edmonton Oilers. But the Winnipeg Jets have not won a game in front of the whiteout and their fans since game 1 of the Western Conference Final in 2018 against these very same Golden Knights. Since then, they've lost game 2, game 5 against the Vegas Golden Knights in that series. They lost games 1, 2, and 5 against the St. Louis Blues in 2019. Did not return to the whiteout until this year, where they've now lost games 3 and 4 in front of the whiteout. That's 7 straight losses. So we'll have to explore the idea of the Winnipeg Jets and why they cannot seem to get what they are looking to get in front of the whiteout. I can tell you this right now, being in that building, there is nothing to be taken away from the whiteout and the audience there. Even in moments where there didn't seem to be hope, they were pushing, trying to give their team hope, doing the things that you want fans to do. That good fans do, right? Like fans, you can have a packed building. You can also have a building that entirely goes to sleep at the worst time in the game because they aren't feeling it. The Winnipeg Jets fans came out to bring and give their energy to the Winnipeg Jets to try to get them where they wanted them to go. Did not work on this night. Breakdown of the game. Let's get to it. Got to say, there's going to be a good amount of people here who are going to look at this and look at the last game and say, you know what, proud of our boys, give it, hands up for our boys, stick tap for our boys for doing what they did and for fighting and not giving up as the game went on. And I'm conflicted because there's a part of me that takes a look at what the Winnipeg Jets did in the third period of this game tonight, in the third period of the other game where they came down from 4-1. It's true. There's no quit in this group. They've been pushing. They deserve credit for that. The idea of them putting themselves in this position over and over again, right? Now, sometimes that's just how it goes. You're playing a good team. You're playing a number 1 seed, which I think a lot of people in this chat room forgot after the first game of this series, and I don't think there was a lot of respect heading towards the Vegas Golden Knights from a lot of circles in Winnipeg. I don't know. Maybe that's just fandom. Maybe I read that wrong, but I sure heard a lot of people saying they didn't think, A, that the Winnipeg Jets were an 8th seed, but B, that the Vegas Golden Knights were a true number 1 seed. They're showing to be the team that knows how to raise their game at the most crucial times of the game. And part of that, I think, is the idea that the Jets just keep finding themselves in these situations. Now, when they do, they're you see the version of the Winnipeg Jets as they should be throughout the game, right? You get them throwing pucks on net. We saw this again tonight. The goal that they get to make this a close one, it's far from a Picasso. That's the hockey gods stepped up and said, let's give the Winnipeg Jets a hand here on this one. See if we can't get them back into it. It gets to the back of the net, but it gets to the back of the net because the puck gets to the front of the net amidst chaos. Sound familiar? Well, it's the same thing that happened in Adam Lowry's goal. The Winnipeg Jets made a real push to get pucks on net in the third period. It's exactly what I was talking about last game, what I liked about their third period the last game. And then, I was talking with some people again about it today and yesterday during the off day, the idea that the Jets were dominant in the first overtime of that game 3. And then at one point I looked up amidst their domination and noticed that the Vegas Golden Knights were out shooting the Winnipeg Jets 4-0 at that point. The reason the Winnipeg Jets, the best the Winnipeg Jets have looked in this series is when they are trailing and looking to get back into a game, because then they grab the puck, they fight for the puck, and they throw it to get it to the front of the net. Couple times tonight, it looked like Brendan Dillon, I remember him fighting a shot that redirected and just went over the net. That's where the danger seemed to come from on this night. It's where the danger came from the other night. It's why they came back and tied that game up in the third. The question that you have to ask yourself is, are you okay? Are you okay with just having a fan, or excuse me, of being a fan of a team that, is plucky and doesn't give up on that game, tries to fight their way back in? Is that enough for you? Or is there maybe a question you want to ask yourself about why they keep getting in that situation? Because that's the question that I keep asking myself. Why are the Winnipeg Jets in a situation in these last two games, and maybe even the game before that? I know they didn't make much of a push in the third period, the game before that, in game 2. But why are they finding themselves in this position down the way that they are? And I had an interesting conversation with Hammer while we were going on getting ready to listen to Rick Bowness. And the conversation is surrounding the idea that when the Winnipeg Jets roll, right, when they push, when they do what they did in the third period last game, when they do what they did for stretches of the third period this game, where they just roll and they just look like they're unstoppable, I question at this stage, maybe I should have questioned this a long time ago, are the Winnipeg Jets only able to do that, to look like that, to look like what a lot of people think is like, that's the Winnipeg Jets? When they see them do that, everyone's like, that's the Winnipeg Jets. Are they only able to look like that because they're not matching the effort of the other team for wide swaths of the game? Other than that, it's another way of saying, are the Winnipeg Jets not meeting the standard you would expect from a team, and then resting while they're not achieving that standard, and then coming out with all sorts of energy that the other team can't match because they basically have more energy because they haven't been working as hard as the other team? Because I don't think there's a question mark in this game or the previous game that Vegas didn't outwork the Winnipeg Jets before this. The Jets, I don't know what the shot totals were by the end of the second period, but I'm sitting there and I'm watching the Winnipeg Jets losing 3-1. And at one point I looked up, I don't know how much time was left on the second period, and the Jets only had 13 shots. That's not enough. It's not enough if you're a number 8 seed and you're going to walk in and knock off the number 1 seed in the playoffs, in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You're not going to get anywhere in a game. You're down 3-1 and you've only got 13 shots at least halfway through the game, if not more than that. I know that Gary Galley pointed that out at some point. They weren't getting enough shots. I wonder if there isn't this sense with the Winnipeg Jets that it's an idea that they coast, and then they stand up and they say, okay, now we're going to start playing. And we saw that in game 3 of this in the third period. We saw that in game 4 here tonight in the third period. But beyond that, we saw that during the regular season with a team that at some point in the season decided, okay, we're safe. Let's sit down. And then right down to the stretch until after that game against the San Jose Sharks, finally the Winnipeg Jets stood up and said, okay, that's enough. We're going to start playing now and look dominant. Because I can tell you this. I can tell you in this chat room amongst people that I've talked to, what was it that everyone was saying before we went into this series around the time that they were playing the San Jose Sharks? Everyone was saying, well, I don't know what the point of them making the playoffs is anyway, because they're probably going to get swept or they're going to be out in 5, right? But in that moment after that game where they played the Detroit Red Wings and then the New Jersey Devils, and then they did what they did to the San Jose Sharks, and they did what they did to the Nashville Predators, belief started up again with this team. Belief absolutely started up again. People started saying, okay, now they've rounded into form. Now the Winnipeg Jets aren't an 8th seed. Now the Winnipeg Jets are a team that probably should be a top seed that's going up against a top seed. And if they play like this, how many people came up to you over the last couple of weeks and said, if they play like this, the Winnipeg Jets could do things? How many of you after game one thought you were on the way to winning the Stanley Cup in a walk because the Winnipeg Jets played the way that they did? The idea of this, and this is a question that we asked on this show. I know Ken definitely talked about this. But consistency from the Winnipeg Jets, not flashes, consistency, not the flash we saw in the third period last game or the flash we saw in the third period this game. The inability for the, and I don't even want to say flash, but if you look on it on the timeline over a series, one game is a flash. So the flash that we saw from the Winnipeg Jets in game one, where they put an entire period, an entire 60 minutes together, but have not come close to putting an entire 60 minutes together since. This is who the Winnipeg Jets showed themselves to be during the regular season, down the stretch. There should be no one who is questioning the idea of the Winnipeg Jets going to sleep for 4 straight periods after winning the first 4 periods, going to sleep to a degree in the second period here tonight. I still don't understand how Rick Bowness thought that the Winnipeg Jets in game 3 were just as good as the Vegas Golden Knights in the second period of that game. I thought that they got ran out of the rink by the Vegas Golden Knights in the second period of that game. But in the end, what we are seeing here, going down the stretch with the Winnipeg Jets now with their backs against the wall and having no room for error going forward, is a team that is not able to get its compete level and its consistency up to a standard level for an extended period of time. And that does not bode well for a team that now needs to win 3 straight games to get itself into the next round. That's my take on this. Time to bring in Ken to get his take on us. The man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Ken, my friend, great to see you here tonight. I haven't really got to talk to you since I hopped off the broadcast. I know that you tried to call me in the middle of the broadcast. That was fun. Pocket dial from Ken, right?
Yeah,
in the middle of
always important.
That's good.
You thought it was important.
Listen, had it been anyone other than you, Ken, I would have dressed that person down and given them a firm talking to, but I can't do that to my main man, Kenny. One reason, because you got the best music in the business. 2, because you got some of the best takes in the biz. Give me an idea what you saw here tonight, Ken.
Well, my friend, sorry. If I were actually trying to call you, I would have been asking you about those isotoners you were rocking on the pregame show. Sorry about that. I had to get it in before. I know that there's a lot of angst in the chat room here, so I thought I might try to lighten the mood a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear all of what you had to say, but I've got a good idea of where you went. And just one sec. What I thought was that the Jets are giving an incredible effort for a team that is missing a lot of key cogs, but this is simple for me. It was going to be difficult for the Jets to beat the Vegas Golden Knights, who are a deeper team and a better team, a team that defends better, and a team that plays a little bit more of a heavy game, if they were at complete and full health. Right now, the Jets are nowhere near that health. I think they're trying to do what they do. Do they have the requisite level of urgency over a 60-minute time frame? That's debatable. Like you said, 13 shots. They're not making life difficult enough for Laurent Brossoit. And unless they do that, it's going to be hard for them to win 3 games in a row in this series, because the Vegas Golden Knights stars right now, the ones who are in the lineup, are outperforming the Winnipeg Jets stars. Their depth players are outperforming the Winnipeg Jets depth players. Their defense core is deeper than the Jets. And especially without Josh Morrissey, even though Neil Pionk is providing a more than valiant effort on the back end, as are all players who are suiting up for the Jets are deeper at forward, they're deeper on defense. And right now, Brossoit has basically played Hellebuyck to a standstill, and that's a win, Sean. If Brossoit is playing Hellebuyck almost even or whatever term you want to use for it.
More than even. The stats all point to him being
at least even, yeah. So the Jets had a decisive edge in goal. That was the belief. And right now, Hellebuyck needs to steal a game in the series for the Jets to keep the season alive. That did not happen today, and it's not to blame Hellebuyck by any stretch. But without Hellebuyck playing at a superhuman level, the Jets are going to have a hard time extending the series. That's basically where we're at in the series. I mean, Blake Wheeler had another solid effort, goal and an assist. Outside of that, they got a crazy lucky goal by Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was involved in the game in a lot of ways, drew a couple penalties. He took a costly penalty that expired just as William Karlsson scored. I like the engagement, but he stuck his leg out, and that was an obvious call for the referee. So that's a play that can't happen at that stage of the hockey game. I know that when you play on the line, that happens, but that was a costly penalty in this game. Even though it doesn't look like a power play goal in the game sheet, we know that he wasn't back in the play. Outside of that, man, I mean, Neil Pionk's had 5 assists in the last 2 games. We know it has been an uneven year for him. He's giving everything that he possibly has. If there was ever any doubt, Sean, for the folks who thought I was just making excuses for Neil Pionk when I have talked about his health during the course of the year, I would say his answer to John Liu's question and the pregnant pause that was delivered with it makes it pretty obvious that Neil Pionk continues to be injured and playing through a lot of pain. Yes, he did say that, it's the playoffs, everyone deals with injuries, but it's obvious that this is someone who isn't healthy, but he's given everything that he has. So, can the Jets win Game 5, Sean? Extend the series, bring it back for a Game 6 on a likely Saturday afternoon? Sure they can, but in order for them to do that, a couple things are going to happen, or have to happen for them. Connor Hellebuyck is going to have to play out of his mind. The Jets are going to have to get more of a contribution from the likes of Kyle Connor and some of the other forwards. Again, I don't think it's a lack of effort. I just haven't seen the explosiveness from Kyle in this series. I don't know. Some people are asking me regularly if Kyle is hurt. I don't know the answer to that question. I know he's out there. I know he's trying. It's just he's not generating the same kind of looks that we're used to seeing, with the exception of the first goal he scored in the series. I know he got another one the other night, but I just haven't seen him take over games the way that we're used to seeing. So what else has to happen for the Jets? It's a complicated formula, Sean. Right now, the likes of Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone, Brett Howden. We're not going to dig in on the Golden Knights too much, but Brett Howden is having an awesome series. Not just because he had 2 goals today. He is noticeable almost every single shift on the ice for the Golden Knights. The Oakbank product is playing like a house on fire. He is forechecking ferociously, getting to the net. He stuck with his own rebound, scored after a great block by Neil Pionk. I've loved his play. And Bruce Cassidy, Sean, we talked about adjustments. Bruce Cassidy took Ivan Barbashev, who was the key player the Vegas Golden Knights acquired at the deadline. They watched him they had over 50 viewings of Barbashev this year alone when it came to scouting him and bringing him in. Bruce Cassidy made the difficult decision to put him on the 4th line because he wanted to give Brett Howden a few more minutes. He wanted to give Michael Amadio a few more minutes. Well, Michael Amadio has a double overtime winner, and Brett Howden just scored 2 goals today. So they're getting contributions throughout their lineup. The Jets are getting excellent play from Adam Lowry, from Mason Appleton, from Morgan Barron. But this is part of the problem, Sean. It's great that those guys are playing well for the Jets, and they need them to play well. But when that's their best line, that means their top offensive performers are not matching the performances being delivered by the Vegas Golden Knights' top performers right now.
I got a quick question for you. Do you think the Jets would have Vladislav Nemesnikov if they would have gone out and got Ivan Barbashev?
Probably not. But
Yeah. Like, I wonder if there's. I
no.
wonder
So
if,
here.
yeah,
ahead,
I wonder
sorry.
if Nemesnikov is just. I mean, in the end, this could be one of those scenarios where I do think one thing that Kevin Cheveldayoff has done well over the years is his plan Bs have turned out pretty darn good over the years. And this Nemesnikov thing, how much would Ivan Barbashev have cost you? What was that trade for? Did they get a first rounder for Barbashev, or was it a second rounder?
I think it was a second, but
My guess is it's not a fourth rounder, but
no.
What I'm telling you is Vladislav Nemesnikov has probably done everything Ivan Barbashev would have done for the Winnipeg Jets, maybe more. And so this is one of those situations.
Sorry, it's
where
for prospect Zach Dean. So steady,
Zach Dean,
steady prospect, World Junior. He played on the World Junior team.
Okay. So I mean, we'll see how that turns out. But in the end, the
steady
Winnipeg
prospect.
Jets didn't have to part with a prospect, a first round
pick. Sorry, 30th overall in 2020.
There you go. That's why I thought it was a first. Is because
it's the equivalent of a first. Yes.
Exactly. So, anyways, we get to that. I want to move on from that. I do want to touch on something here, and I get it. Mark Scheifele's gone. The Jets were also down 2-1 in this series before Mark Scheifele was gone. I get it that Nick Ehlers isn't here. I get it that Josh Morrissey's gone. Coach E51 says Scheifele got hurt trying to make a play. So did Morrissey, Ehlers, and Perfetti. They're pointing it out. BA Split says the blame game is so sad. Look who's hurt. End of story. So BA Split, we could just stop the show right here because BA Split has announced it's over. BA Split is one of the kind of people who Kevin Cheveldayoff, I'm sure, is very happy with over the years, because every single year the Winnipeg Jets have an excuse with someone being out of the lineup in the playoffs. And like a lot of people love to hang their hats on that, right? We don't have, those fans aren't the same kind of fans who take a look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and say, hey, they won their first cup without Steven Stamkos, who means so much to that team from what we've seen over the years. You couldn't possibly get over something like that. The Winnipeg Jets are truly the only team that's ever succeeded, or if they were to succeed with these injuries, they would be the first and only team to have ever succeeded in the Stanley Cup playoffs with significant injuries before. I'm not saying that this doesn't have an effect on the series, but if you're going to go every single year and point to people being out of the lineup, never mind the fact that the starting goaltenders for a team like the Vegas Golden Knights are not in this series, and the goaltender they're riding right now was in Henderson with the Silver Knights in the AHL for the majority of the year. Like, there's things happening on both sides of these things, of these teams. Right now, what's happening with the Vegas Golden Knights is Laurent Brossoit, who is an AHL goaltender this year, is out-dueling Connor Hellebuyck, who is one of the best, if not the best, goaltenders in the world. That's the response that's happening to a team that's facing adversity right now. To Ken's point, and I point this out and you know what? Gary Galley did a really good job of this. Sorry, it wasn't Gary Galley. It was in the second intermission. Elliot Friedman said this. The Winnipeg Jets are at a stage now where Kyle Connor has to be at his absolute very best.
Yep.
Pierre-Luc Dubois has to come out and be at his absolute very best. And until those players come out and do that, and don't win because they're short of Josh Morrissey and short of, like, what's happening with Neil Pionk right now. Neil Pionk, I think, is assisted on 5 straight goals for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Josh Morrissey went down, and what's happening? Neil Pionk has stepped up and is trying to ensure that he's elevated his game and that the Winnipeg Jets can get by with the loss of Josh Morrissey. We don't look at this game tonight and think they lost because their defense wasn't very solid or because they didn't get production from the back end that you would expect from Josh Morrissey, because you got it from Neil Pionk. But you can't come and blame everything on injuries when the players who could step up in those situations aren't stepping up. Now, I don't want to say anyone. I don't know about you, Ken. I thought this was Blake Wheeler's absolute best game of the season and maybe his best game in the last 2 years. I thought he was flying out there. I thought he was leading the charge.
Yep.
Very, very good play to come off and turn that. I think you helped educate me on this one. But Blake Wheeler takes that shot. But Blake Wheeler, since he's on his forehand, there's a feeling that he's faking the shot and going to throw it across the ice for a one-timer. And then the fact that he shoots kind of catches Laurent Brossoit off guard. Not the best goal to allow for Laurent Brossoit, but it was in the perfect spot. Hey, a lot of times they'll tell you if you hit the right spot, doesn't matter how fast a goaltender is. But I go back to the original point. If you want to pin everything on injuries, then you might as well, or then you better be able to point to a team that went and through everything else that they had at it, that the next star stepped up. Mark Scheifele is not the leading goal scorer on this team. Kyle Connor is, okay, and it has been for 2 years. There's someone there who can carry the load offensively. Pierre-Luc Dubois is a guy who can carry the load offensively. Blake Wheeler stepped up, did his job here tonight to try and do this. Nino Niederreiter is pushing. Yes, I get it. There are injuries, but the last thing that I want to hear is for the umpteenth year straight with the Winnipeg Jets that they would have had it, but they had some injuries. If you're leaning on that excuse got tired years ago. The Jets need to show up and show that they can get beyond the adversity that a lot of other teams face. And before I can jump on the idea that this core was meant for something special, just a couple injuries here and there entirely took this organization down. I am not buying it.
Yeah, a couple quick things here, Sean. When it comes to Scheifele, my initial thought that he was done for the series, I'm not so sure about that. I don't know. This is just speculation on my part, but I wonder. I know that gamesmanship is a big part of things in the playoffs, but the fact that Rick Bowness ruled out Josh Morrissey immediately and just said we'll reevaluate with Scheifele, I would say there is an outside chance he might be able to return.
No, I don't like for the series or for the next game.
I don't know if it's for Game 5, but
he gave it away. Did you not hear him? He gave it away. He told us they to reevaluate, and then he said they were going to get on the ice and they were going to restructure their lines based on the guys missing. Yeah,
no, but they're already missing guys, I thought. So, but yeah, I know he definitely did say
beyond
that
what
for
they're
sure.
doing now.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. I just think that it's possible he could return before the end of the series. I'm not saying for Game 5. I think he's leaving the door open there because it's maybe not as severe as a separation.
I'm going to tell you something. Someone in a position of power gave me this symbol about Mark Scheifele, right? So it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. It was like this. So I think what that means is, and I think Rick Bowness gave it away. I don't expect Mark Scheifele for Game 5, but I do think that the chances of him potentially returning to this series do remain.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. I just think that we'll see what happens there. We're going to find out pretty quickly. I don't anticipate Kevin Stenlund being the second-line center for the Jets in the next game. I think they got to move Vladislav Nemesnikov back to center, is my personal view. And that's no disrespect to Kevin Stenlund, who has had a good series on all accounts, but I just don't think that he can handle those second-line minutes right now. Also, too, Sean, do you think it's possible that the restructuring could include a Nikolai Ehlers return? Now, again, I'm not saying that's the case, but maybe it's a possibility. We'll see how it goes. What I think, though, will we see Vladislav Nemesnikov at center? Yes, I do. I thought Pierre-Luc Dubois answered a question very succinctly and directly when asked if he feels extra pressure with Scheifele being out. He's like, no, look at the way Adam Lowry's playing. Look at the way Nemesnikov's been playing at center. So I think that that's something that we'll view here as we move along with this series. In terms of injuries, are of course they're a factor, but the Stanley Cup champions are playing without Gabe Landeskog. They played without him all year. They still won the Central Division. So the Vegas Golden Knights have injuries also. They're not to their top defenseman and top centerman, but I mean they've dealt with injuries all year long. So yeah, I mean, and here's the other part. I know that social media was going absolutely wild today about Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley did not hurt the Jets one bit, Sean. Logan Stanley played 841, only 12 shifts, but he was fine in the game. I thought he made a couple of smart decisions, and he actually got that play started on the breakaway. He flipped it over on the boards to Nemesnikov. Nemesnikov got it up to Wheeler, and Wheeler got it up to Scheifele. So that was a critical part of the game so early. Scheifele with a great chance, and what a save by Bressois. Sean, I mean, I don't think we've talked. He hasn't been tested that often, but that's a great scoring chance, and he made the save. And some people were saying it should have been tripping. Bressois just trying to make a save there. That's not tripping. I mean, it's a good play by the goaltender. So, yeah, I mean, it's a huge loss for them. The Jets battled hard, but right now, Sean, I can't say it any simpler. The Jets are being beaten by a better team, no matter who's in their lineup. When they haven't had their full lineup yet, they're being beaten by a deeper team. Does that mean they're going to win the series? Well, right now, they're in a good position to win the series. Can the Jets force another game? Of course they could. But they're going to have to get a lot of things going in their direction. I thought that their defense core, once again, without Josh Morrissey, gave a very valiant effort. You saw a lot of minutes for Pionk once again, 27-28, 23-03 for Dylan DeMello, 25-21 for Brendan Dillon, and Nate Schmidt had 21-27. How does this game go? Like, Brendan Dillon has a crazy chance. It was at a tough angle, but him hitting the side of the net, Sean, I mean, does that change the game? I mean,
God, yeah.
Like, that was something massive there.
Oh, yeah.
So, really good chance. Didn't quite bury it, and came back to haunt them a bit. I mean, these things happen in the course of a series. I thought Dylan Samberg bounced back nicely. We know it wasn't a bad play. He made a smart read. The puck hit a shin pad. That's a bad bounce. He didn't play a tentative game. He played a steady game. He was involved in the game. There too, Samberg. Samberg in the game, Sean, played only 19 shifts for 12:39, but I thought he was fine. He played the way that he has during the stretch for the Jets. He made some smart plays. Yeah, but I mean, this is simple to me. Connor Hellebuyck has not stolen a game in this series. If the Jets want to keep their season alive, Hellebuyck is going to have to be the Jets' best player on Thursday night, and that's as simple as I can boil it down. That's not to say the Jets can't have only their goaltender going. They're going to need some contributions throughout the lineup, but they need Hellebuyck to go out and steal a game here. And if he doesn't, we're going to be talking about the offseason sooner than later.
Okay, I want to talk about Connor Hellebuyck, and we're going to get into that. But first, I just want to say you're looking great, Kenny.
Thank you.
Switched things up here. We have to hop on a plane tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
People were asking why I'm at home. I raced home just because I got to pack, got to do a bunch of stuff before we hop on a plane and continue on for Game 5, because you and I will be in Vegas by this time, way before this time tomorrow night. But you're looking like $1 million before I do go. And if this series makes it to 6 games, I have a suit I need to debut. I'm going to be taking it for some alterations. So on the way to the airport tomorrow, I got to head over to see Frankie and the boys of Vittorio Rossi to make sure that I get some last-minute alterations done before I go and hop on the plane. Hey, if you want to head on down, buy some suits, and we can have this conversation, and you can tell me how it's impossible to get over injuries and make the point belaboredly over and over again that without Stone and Eichel and all these different kinds of players that the series would be entirely differently, which was not the point I was trying to make at all, but whatever, you do you. Come on down, see us all at Vittorio Rossi on Corridon Avenue. They will do you up right. Make sure you go ask for Frankie and the boys. Tell them that Kenny and Renny sent you, and we would appreciate that so much. Thank you for backing up our sponsors. Ken, you're a Lamplighter on the night tonight.
Oh man, you know what? I think that the Lamplighter for me is, I think it's got to be the Barbashev tip. It's a game where the Vegas Golden Knights went bang bang, Sean, to borrow a term from our friend and colleague Dennis Bayak. William Karlsson gets the goal just as Pierre-Luc Dubois comes out of the box, and Shea Theodore unloads a shot from the point that is tipped from Ivan Barbashev. I think in real time, a bunch of people were wondering if that's a shot that should have been stopped, but it was tipped. And once again, a contribution from an important trade deadline acquisition who happens to be, that shift he was out there with Chandler Stevenson on a blended shift. But there's another great example of the guy playing on the fourth line involved now, Sean, in the double overtime winner. Yeah, sure, it bounced off his shin pad, but he had to be in the right spot to make the play. And now on the game-winning goal, he scores it. He also set up the goal by William Karlsson the other night. So I think Barbashev's having a solid series, even though he's trying to find his way here. And I think his goal has to be the Lamplighter. I mean, honorable mention to Blake Wheeler, who did catch Laurent Brossoit cheating a little bit with a quick shot. That's generally a play that he passes on the majority of the time. But I think the Barbashev goal, given the circumstances of this series, is going to be the Lamplighter today, brought to you by the good folks at Trans-Canada Brewing Company.
Yeah, I guess I can't argue with that, but I'm going to anyways. I'll give it to Blake Wheeler on this night, just because I think one of the conversations we're going to have to get to at some point in this is the potential for the final games of a certain number of players on the Winnipeg Jets to have been their last game in front of the Winnipeg Jets fans. We'll have to get to that conversation. I thought Blake Wheeler played tonight like he was playing for something, and we will get to what I think that he was playing for. But that goal that he scores is the most cerebral goal on the ice. Again, it's one of those things where, without even faking moving to the other side of the ice, because he is Blake Wheeler, because he so often rolls off those boards and never shoots the puck and passes it across, and because he's going up against a goaltender like Laurent Brossoit, who's seen this guy in practice 1,000 times over. How many times did Laurent Brossoit see them practice the power play? Because the first line power play practices against the second string goaltender. Laurent Brossoit has seen Blake Wheeler move off the wall like that with the puck, as though he's coming down the alley to shoot and score, and pass the puck 97.89% of the time whenever he's tried that play. And so because of that, Laurent Brossoit gets mind hooped by this play, because I think what he's waiting for is the wrist flick of Blake Wheeler firing the puck, trying to find a seam across the grain, and that he needs to move across and stop the puck. Instead, it's almost like he's dumbfounded by the idea that he shoots the puck. That was a cerebral goal, so I'm going to hand that one to Blake Wheeler. You can respond quickly after this, Ken. I'm just going to make sure that the people in the chat room know that if you would like to share with us your Lamplighter, you should do that, because if you do, you will automatically be entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at Trans-Canada Brewing Company. If you can't wait, you know what? Hugo, that camera guy from Montreal, is going to make his way on down to Trans-Canada, because he heard about the great beer and he loves his microbreweries. So I said, I know a great microbrewery you can go hit up, and it's got great pizza. So he's going to go do that. He's going to head on down to the Trans-Canada Brewing Company and join them in their tap room at 11290 Keniston Avenue. Good for you, Hugo. An absolute gem of a human being, by the way, Hugo is. I just wanted to remind everybody, because the reminder should be coming. We'll have to lock it down, but if this series does not make it past 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, so Game 7 would be on Monday.
Yeah,
so
Monday.
Unless the Jets come back and win this series, it's looking like the Kenny and Renny year-ender bender is not going to be next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that. We're going to try and lock that down and make sure that after the series is over, we have a definitive date for you. But if you are interested in coming to the Kenny and Renny year-ender bender, get on the reserve list. You direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your name and some contact information so I can get out to you. Added some more names to the reserve list tonight, Ken. So if you want to do that, time's running out. We're getting closer and closer to the Kenny and Renny year-ender bender. So you know what to do. Direct message me and get on that list. Ken, you had something to say.
Sorry, I do agree that Brossoit thought the pass was coming, but I think he thought it was coming to Dubois down low. That's why he was cheating to the near side post. That's what left the... I don't think he was cheating for the cross ice, or else he would have been cheating the other way, personally. But I definitely think he was cheating.
I don't know that he was cheating. I think that what happened...
Sorry, anticipating the play to go down low. Like, he was hugging the post too much.
Sure, but I think he was hugging the post because he was looking to push off of the post, right?
Maybe.
Like he was getting pressed up against it because he was going to throw himself across to stop the pass that he thought was going to be happening, and which never came. Blake Wheeler, I'd said to you originally, how surprising is that? Blake Wheeler coming and shooting that shot. He's scored like that before, but he rarely ever shoots from that spot. So the fact that he shot I think got Lauren Brossoit and caught him with a goal that he probably should not have allowed, but does allow because of the cerebral nature of that goal. Ken, your Johnston Group got you covered. Player of the game.
Yeah, I think this is a Neil Pionk appreciation award for me today. The fact that he has put together 5 consecutive assists for the Winnipeg Jets here at a time where they absolutely needed someone to step up. Yes, the group as a whole has done a nice job on that front, but when it comes to driving offense, right now Pionk is doing an exceptional job. Primary assist on the Wheeler goal and the secondary assist on the Dubois goal, which was very bizarre. Wheeler takes the shot. Dubois jams first on the rebound. I couldn't tell. Sean, you probably had a better look than I did. Was it Petrangelo's stick or Brossoit? It looked like they both took a swing at it to bat it into the air.
I thought it was Brossoit's. I thought Brossoit ended up doing it, yeah.
Okay, and then Petro took a swing at it with his hand, and he missed it. And Dubois actually almost hit it with a high stick, but it just landed behind Brossoit on the goal. But regardless, Neil Pionk has been an absolute force. As I mentioned, I think there's probably a surgery coming for him in the offseason. I don't know what it will be or when it will be. 5 shot attempts, 4 hits, 2 blocked shots. I mean, led their team in ice time with 27-28. So another, pretty valiant effort by Neil Pionk in a year. Hey, Sean, what I said down the stretch, Neil Pionk needed to be one of the Jets' best defensemen behind Josh Morrissey, and he's taken up his end of the bargain, and that became even more important when the Jets lost Morrissey for at least the rest of the series. That's why I'm choosing him as my Johnston Group. We've got you covered. Player of the game in this case, rather than simple play itself.
I like it. I like how you expanded it. You're taking it to new places. I absolutely love it, Ken. What I also love is being able to be to sing the praises of the Kenny and Renny OGs and the support that we get from the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnston Group. You won't find 2 businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits, proudly administered by our friends at Johnston Group. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chamberplan.ca. All right, Ken, we need to get into this conversation about Connor Hellebuyck. I know that I'm going to get pushed back on this. You and I have had this conversation.
No, buddy, I'm going to tell you right now, we're not fighting. I'm on your side now. I've changed my tune here.
Well, so I'm going to go back to a long-running conversation that Ken and I have had over the years. And what I've said over the years is, listen, Connor Hellebuyck has been one of the best goaltenders in the world, in the conversation for the best goaltender in the world.
Oh, sorry. I'm not totally on board. Sorry.
No, I know you're not totally on board. That's why I'm going back, because I want you to pick a fight. And so we should pick it's more fun when you pick a fight.
Yeah, especially when you're at home. Better to pick a fight when you're at home and I'm at the rink. At 1:18 in the morning. At 1:18 in the morning.
You're just worried about the ride home. 2018, he comes into his own, and then after that, he's in that conversation. But I have maintained this for the entirety of this conversation since it started in 2018. But I take a look down the stretch, and I can't remember a series that I thought Connor Hellebuyck won. Right? Like, we hear these conversations and how many people have said it, how many people talked about it coming into this series. Well, Connor Hellebuyck is the kind of guy who can steal you a series. On the panels, everyone would talk about it and say, Jets have the kind of goalie that can steal you a series. I've never seen that before, right? Okay, and so what I'm going to say is Connor Hellebuyck has won some series in his time. He's won a series against the Minnesota Wild. He won a series against the Nashville Predators. He won a series against the Edmonton Oilers. In the process there, he outdueled, who did he outduel? Devin Dubnyk.
Yep.
Shortly thereafter, out of the league. Then he outdueled, one of the other best goalies in the world at the time.
Pekka Rinne won the Vezina that year.
Who won the Vezina that year. But
and he had 2 shutouts in the series.
And he also was pulled from the series how many times?
Well, once in Game 7 for
It
sure.
was it was twice. It was at least twice in that
Sure.
series. He was up, he was down. He definitely was not the very best version of himself, and he definitely did not look like the best goaltender in the world in that series. But we'll say that we have to give him credit for the idea that he was the better goaltender in that series against Pekka Rinne. I just think Pekka Rinne was not good in that series. And then he outdueled not Jack
He had 2
Campbell.
shutouts. He was pretty good in those 2 games.
He was good. And then who did he outduel for the Edmonton Oilers, who's not in the league anymore?
Mike Smith.
Mike Smith. So Mike Smith, who the very next year was allowed goals from the other end of the ice, slap shots from the other end of the ice. That's the list of goaltenders that he has surpassed in the playoffs. Now, we're in a situation where he's now down 3-1 to his backup. You're in a situation where he went up against Carey Price, and anyone who doesn't think Carey Price was the better goaltender in that series, I don't know how you can be helped. He was outdueled by Cam Talbot against the Calgary Flames, and he was outdueled by Jordan Binnington in that first game of the series. Now, people are going to try and split hairs here and say he wasn't outdueled, this happened, or whatever, because we know how this works. The suggestion that Connor Hellebuyck is anything but a god is sacrilege for certain segments of the Winnipeg Jets population. But I mean, this is my stance on this, and I stand by this. Connor Hellebuyck, if you are going to compare him in the greatest goaltender conversation, one of the guys he has to go up against is Andrei Vasilevskiy. And we have seen, there is no denying, no one can deny that Andrei Vasilevskiy is a playoff performer. When he went up against Carey Price, there is ample evidence that will tell you Carey Price is a playoff performer, the kind of goaltender who can throw a team on his back and get somewhere. The Winnipeg Jets series against the Nashville Predators, which I think would be the best argument for him having outdueled another goaltender. Did you see? We showed a pack tonight of the amount of goals that were put up by different players. Like, the Winnipeg Jets as a team came alive to win this series. This is not a series that they leaned on their goaltender and needed their goaltender to get them through. This was an impressive win by the Winnipeg Jets down the stretch, including a phenomenal performance by Mark Scheifele in this series. Whereas we've seen Andrei Vasilevskiy shut the door in elimination games, shut the door. How long did it go before, or had he gone, Ken, where he hadn't lost back-to-back games for like, I don't even know how many games it was straight or how many series it was
Double
straight.
digits, somewhere in there.
Those out there who are saying that Connor Hellebuyck is a playoff goaltender are going to have to look far and wide for the evidence to find that. And unless he can pick it up for game 5 and then 6 and then 7, I don't know that the evidence is going to be there. Maybe never there at all for Connor Hellebuyck as a Winnipeg Jet.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I would counter quickly. I mean, his career numbers, not counting tonight's, .918 save percentage and .253 goals against average, and that's even with an inflated goals against average in this series of .321 so far through 4 games. A lot of the years he has played above average and better than above average. This year he's .895 and .321. So I know it's not as simple as that, but it hasn't been a banner series for Hellebuyck. I'm certainly not blaming him, and Sean, I'm not agreeing totally with this argument, but I am going to agree with another one of your arguments that I previously have been opposed to, the argument about being run into the ground. To me, that is what is catching up to Connor Hellebuyck right now. The fact he had to make 64 starts this season has left him with a little bit less in the tank than what they needed. And I know you've referenced it, Sean. Without that 40-plus save performance against the Minnesota Wild, they may not even be in the playoffs, right? I mean, do you or I think that they could have beat the Colorado Avalanche had they lost to the Minnesota Wild on the Tuesday while playing the back-to-back?
It wasn't a sure thing.
It certainly wasn't a sure thing.
And the following night against the Nashville Predators, they wouldn't have needed to dress anyone. So the Nashville Predators would have had a free pass in that game.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, I'm not with you on the first one. I mean, has he been elite in the playoffs? No, he has not been elite.
There we go.
Has he been above average most of the time?
That's all I need.
Most of the time he's been like 918 is more well above average.
We're not talking above average. Well, listen, this is above average is a bar that you don't want to be asking.
Sure.
Apparently, an all-star goaltender capable of stealing series and one of the best goaltenders of all time. Above average in the playoffs is not a bar you should be asking that goaltender to get over. Carey Price was never, ever asked to barely get above the average bar in the playoffs. Carey Price was godlike in the playoffs, as has been Andrei Vasilevsky. These are the people, and this is all I'm saying. And this is, I guess, the thing that gets me into trouble when it comes to these conversations is that it sounds like I'm going against what I think is a lazy trope that pops up time again in the playoffs. That, boy, oh boy, here come the Winnipeg Jets, and with Connor Hellebuyck in the net, look out, right? Playoff Connor Hellebuyck has never been the guy that people are suggesting he is when the team goes into the playoffs and they say, look out for the Winnipeg Jets because Connor Hellebuyck is back there. That is the only point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to say Connor Hellebuyck's not a great goaltender. I already deferred to you on the argument and changed my mind that Connor Hellebuyck is this year the Winnipeg Jets MVP. Do I think Connor Hellebuyck has been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL since 2018? I think there's a list of 3 goaltenders, and he at the very top, and I think he's in that list. I don't think he's at the very top of that list. And the reason I don't think that is because someone else in that list has the playoff acumen that has not been achieved by him. But it is, to me, a lazy trope to say that Connor Hellebuyck is a playoff goaltender and he can go out there and steal series, because in my mind, I have never seen evidence of the kind. And you're talking about a goaltender who has now, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 23, a 5-year window of playoffs to look at and point to the series that he went and took over. And I contend to this day, there is not a series that you can look at and be like, the Jets won that series. The Jets would have been in a hell of a lot of trouble in that series if Connor Hellebuyck wouldn't have gone and taken it away from the other team. It does not exist.
Well, I mean, they beat the President's Trophy winner, and he was better than the Vezina guy. But yes,
twice.
Sure, and 2 shutouts. So I mean, it was an up and down series for him, and he was terrible in Game 7. But he still had to be better on the road in Game 7. He won the game, Sean.
Lost the game for his team in Game 7.
Okay.
Absolutely, unquestionably didn't show up and lost the game for his team in Game
pulled
7.
in the first period. Not good. But yes. Hellebuyck still had to win the game on the road as a first-time playoff starter against the Vezina Trophy winner against the President's Trophy team. I mean,
he had to not
it was an important
up worse than the other guy across the ice blew up. Yes.
Well, and I would also say this. If Pekka Renny hadn't tossed a shutout in Game 6, the Jets probably had a better chance to beat Vegas, because having to go on the road for Game 7 sapped their energy, and then they had nothing left for the conference final. I mean, Connor had 2 exceptional playoffs runs, 922, 236 in 2018. In 2021, the year that they swept the Oilers, 223 and 931, even though Price was exceptional in round 2. The Jets don't sweep the Oilers without Connor Hellebuyck, and I understand Mike Smith let in a couple of softies in that series, but he still had to play better than the guy at the other end. Is he at an elite level? No, you gotta go to the conference final more than one time in order to be considered an elite playoff goaltender. So, yeah, I mean, no one's blaming Hellebuyck here, but
no, exactly.
Right now,
the point that needs to
there's another level he can play at. But I would also say, too, someone who's covered the league for a long time texted me during the stretch run and said, is Hellebuyck going to have enough left down the stretch? And right now, I think there is a question over if he was overworked or not. And that's not a knock on the Jets coaching staff, because they felt they needed to play him to get into the playoffs. But the fact that they weren't able to play David Rittich more down the stretch could be costing them now in a series against the Vegas Golden Knights, because the fuel tank is not as full as it would have been had he started 60 games instead of 64.
Well, and so what Kenny keeps referring to, where he's come onto my side, and this is over the last 2 seasons, last year especially, And I thought the same thing down the stretch here. But if people have heard my rant, I think there's one goaltender in the history of the NHL who's capable of handling the kind of workload that Connor Hellebuyck has been routinely asked to handle. And I think that was Marty Brodeur. I think Marty Brodeur was a freak of nature. I think he came from another time where I don't know that his fitness regime would have been anywhere near anyone else's, but I point to a goaltender like Mika Kiprasov, who started out and then they rode him, and his numbers went down and down and down over the years until there was just not much left of him. He left, I thought, fairly unceremoniously by the time it was all said and done. Credit to Connor Hellebuyck. He has still maintained that kind of, stealing and holding, again, MVP of the Winnipeg Jets this year. And I thought really crucial down the stage as they made the playoffs. This is one of these things I'm talking about in my opening salvo, the idea that the Winnipeg Jets just didn't put themselves in a good spot this season and kind of coasted and put themselves in a situation where they could miss the playoffs and forced them to go with Connor Hellebuyck down the stretch like that. I've said this before. I think that's part of this. But I mean, again, this to me goes back to the excuse of, well, Mark Scheifele was out of the playoffs that year against the Flames. Then Mark Scheifele got knocked out of the Jake Evans series, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Scott Billick said it earlier on today. The Boston Bruins right now are up 3-1 in their series against their 8th seed, and they are missing their top 2 centers. Anyone who tries to tell me that Patrice Bergeron isn't a guy who entirely changes the outcome of a game on his own is crazy. And they're getting it done without that player right now in that situation. The people who are trying to argue with me that I'm suggesting that taking out a Mark Scheifele and that there's someone who's coming in who is of equal value to Mark Scheifele, give your head a shake. There's no way I'm saying that. My point time and time again is teams at some point get over these kind of things. The Winnipeg Jets have had a number of years to show they can get past injuries or things that happen, and they haven't been able to do it. So either, if the people who are out there want to hang on to that excuse and say that the Winnipeg Jets, in the words of Connor Hellebuyck a couple of years ago, would have been 5-time Stanley Cup champs right now if they wouldn't have run into a little bit of bad luck and injuries in the playoffs. If that's what you need to cling to, grab onto it and hold on tight. Because there's probably going to be some pretty rough waters coming up here over the next little while, because that team, that 5 years straight team that you thought was winning the whole thing, there's going to be some troubles here, and that's what we need to talk about before we go, Ken. But I need you to give a shout out to our main man, Sweet Lou.
Yeah, for the folks who have realty needs that they would like to have met, whether you're looking to buy, looking to sell, looking to see what that house on the corner is worth, or maybe looking for a new neighborhood entirely, you can contact Lou Furlan at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. And his website with all his listings, loufurlan.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of this community, including our podcast, for which we are eternally grateful.
Okay, Ken, I know.
Sorry, let's save the big. We got to save the big chat for. We can't get into it right now. I think
okay, we can't get into it right now.
No, it's 1:33 here.
Fine, we're gonna shut it down. Before we do go, it's been called for, and I've got a surprise for the audience that I wanted to show off. The headband has been called for. Before we shut this down, let's make this a shot headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Here we go. So how about this beauty? Take a look at this. So this is from the ladies and gentlemen at Home Field, who had a specialized headband made up with all of our different sponsors on here. So you'll notice we've got the Johnston Group, we've got TCB, we've got Cambrian, we've got Home Field over on this side, we've got the K&R logo, we've got Vittorio Rossi. And I noticed over here, Ken, at the beginning when Corey sent this in my direction. I was a little bit jealous because I was like, why does Ken get a spot on the headband? Before I looked a little closer and noticed that it was Lou Ferlin. And I got to say, Ken, you're a good looking man. And I've now figured out why you are such a good looking man, because you look a lot like sweet Lou Ferlin. That's why.
Yeah, that's
good
right.
Stuff. But I wanted to say thank you to Corey. And I also have to say, before I move on here, I forgot to announce the Lamplighter, Murray Brown, who messaged me on Instagram.
Nice.
You came up in the old spinning wheel. So Murray Brown, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name and your email, and I will send you a Frosty Delicious 8-pack, or a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of TransCanada Brewing Company. Of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. And it is also that time of the show where I need to throw a spotlight on the comments and choose a standout for the Home Field Dig Deeper Award. And I set some stuff aside. What I am going to say is, I like this. Terry Trey brings this up and says, I'm hearing you, Renny. Do you make the playoffs without Helly? No. Are you going deep in the playoffs with Helly in net? So far, no. The one thing I would counter to that is they did go to the Western Conference Final. That's pretty deep. And again, I mean, to me, it's one of these things where it's like, it's tough to say anything bad about Connor Hellebuyck because people just get so sensitive about it, and rightfully so. People should get and support their guy because Connor Hellebuyck has done a lot of special things. I hope people can understand the conversation that I'm trying to have here. What I don't like about this is the lazy trope where people just say this is the outcome. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, Craig Zamzow stumbled on a lazy trope that I have been pushing, if I can find it here quickly. But he put out the numbers for Carey Price. Carey Price's numbers. Here we go. He says, Devil's Advocate, before the series, I believe, Carey Price, 43-45, 239, 919. Connor Hellebuyck, 16-9, 246, 921, but 37 always needed to steal 1 to 2 games for the Jets to win a series. I will tell you this. Anyone who's covered the Montreal Canadiens for a number of years will tell you that Carey Price kept the Montreal Canadiens relevant for a number of years, went to the Stanley Cup final with a team that clearly looked like it was not Stanley Cup final worthy over the years. And if you go back to that Rangers series where they went through they were the 8th seed, and they went through the number 1 seed in the Washington Capitals, and then they went through the number 2 seed in the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've lost in the conference finals, or Carey Price did lose in the conference finals, both to the Philadelphia Flyers and then also to the New York Rangers, a series he was knocked out of when Chris Kreider went bowling into him and messed up his knee. There is no way, remembering those series, watching those series, covering that last series that they went, those teams do not get to where they got to in the playoffs without Carey Price absolutely stealing the show in a number of those series. Numbers are one thing. What I'm saying in this situation is, like, if you can find for me the times that Connor Hellebuyck absolutely, completely, and utterly walked away with a series, like the Winnipeg Jets got past the Minnesota Wild because they had a far better team than the Minnesota Wild. They got past the Nashville Predators because I believe they had a better team than the Nashville Predators, and you saw them score their way back into series. And I believe they got past the Edmonton Oilers because they put together a really smart game plan that took and neutralized some of the stars on that Oilers team. I don't look at any of those series and think, Connor Hellebuyck. How did they get there? Connor Hellebuyck. That's my take on it anyways. I'm going to drop it after that. Anyways, I need to say to our Dig Deeper winner, Terry Trey, you know what to do. Direct message me and send me your full name and your email, and I will send you a voucher for your very own Kenny and Renny trunk shovel. Although I think we may be at the stage where we can finally put the snow behind us, Ken. We'll see what happens. We'll see if there's a whiteout this upcoming Saturday. Thank you very much, Terry Trey, for your winning comment. And just like Terry Trey, Homefield is always going to dig deeper to find the best marketing solution for your company. Find out how at myhomefield.com. Ken.ca. Ken, you got to get going. You did a great job. Thanks for sticking around that long. I know, and I understand people are getting chippy in the chat room. People are upset. It's looking tough. Jets backs against the wall. They got to get going here. Before I do let you go, I want to say, if you appreciate the conversations happening in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep these conversations going in these spaces for us. That is Vittorio Rossi, the Trans-Canada Brewing Company, Johnston Group, Lou Ferlin, and Homefield. Thank you so much to them. Thank you to you all. We very much appreciate it. We have at least one more Kenny and Renny post-game show coming up before the year is over. That will be happening this Thursday as Ken and I hop on planes, head back down to Vegas, and tee everything up for Game 5 in this series against the Vegas Golden Knights. We will talk to you after Game 5. Thank you, everybody.
The Kenny and Renny Show is brought to you by Homefield, Cambrian Credit Union, Lou Ferlin, Trans-Canada Brewing, Vittorio Rossi, and Johnston Group.